Hello, everyone, and welcome to Motoring with the Maitlands. I'm Lucy, and I am your host, and I am going to just quickly turn it all over to the Maitland family, who visited over 400 national parks in a very short space of time, in my personal opinion. Maitlands, you're going to have to unmute, and then you're good to go.
Well, hello, everyone. We are absolutely thrilled to have you along with us, and hopefully we can inspire you as though you want to get to the parks as well. I'm Sherry.
I'm Jim.
Jameson.
And Gerald.
And hopefully let's start the presentation.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so because of we are actually writing a book, all the places that you own. We're hoping to have it out by May. It is basically the book that we wanted when we were traveling around. Most of the books that you can find out there are regional.
They do them by regions.
And we really wanted them by topics, such as military parks or lake shores and that sort of stuff. So we actually are writing the book that we wanted when we were traveling. So hopefully that'll be out there.
It all started, everybody wonders how you get started. Well, my parents, I was fortunate, they love to travel. This is my parents' RV. We went all over the country in this. As you can see, it's a tent that folds off from a trailer onto the ground. Mom and Dad got to sleep on the bed in the trailer. The kids slept on the floor. They were made right here in Michigan.
And I think they'd probably be quite popular right now.
Yeah, they were aluminum, very light, and you could pull them.
Now, this is how we travel. We call this is our current fifth wheel, and we call her the whale. She's about 34 feet.
She's 34 feet.
And she's a bunkhouse.
Yeah. Reason we have it is because we were hauling 6 people in it.
Absolutely. Now, the one up in the top corner is a trailer, and it's really good for about 2 people, but real difficult when you've got an entire family in there. However, that small little trailer can get you in and out of places.
Yeah, the truck camper you see in the middle, that is what we took to Alaska. We knew our fifth wheel would not make it through Alaska to the places we went. I mean, it was pretty rugged. And when you see the van on the right, we rented those in Hawaii. They were camper vans. Of course, the kids got the tent, Mom and Dad got the bed in the van. And that's how we camped in Hawaii also.
Now, there are places that you obviously cannot camp at. When you get to Alaska, only 1/3 of Alaska is accessible by road. So 2/3 of Alaska we had to fly to. We actually lost track of how many flights we took.
Numerous bush plane flights.
So how many places did we had to fly to?
You can only fly to the places that are like islands. I mean, otherwise you can drive around. So like Guam, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, American Samoa.
Yeah.
Those are the places that you have to fly to.
Now, how did we get started? Well, really, it is Ken Burns and Dayton Duncan's fault. PBS put on America's Best Idea. It is a 12-hour documentary about the national parks. And when we got done watching it, we both agreed we were going to go to all
the national parks.
Absolutely. Now, I want to break this down for you so that a lot of people don't really quite understand the difference. So when someone says they're going to all the national parks, they're referring to the big, flashy, showy national parks.
Yosemite, Yellowstone, Acadia, all of those, Isle Royale.
Absolutely. And so when we're thinking of those are actually a part of a very special family. There are 360 national park units that are like the children to the national parks. And we weren't even familiar with those. We ended up, we were just going to go to the national parks.
We ended up enjoying the national park units.
Now, these national park units, they are, a president can actually save them from
to protect them. There's monuments and all kinds of things.
Lake shores, seashores, military parks. Now, those national park units can be moved up into
A national
a
park
national park. In fact, our newest national park,
is New River Gorge in West Virginia,
And the
just a
one
couple weeks ago.
and the one before that was
Well,
White Sands National Monument
They were already national parks.
of
But they-
units, but now they've moved to the highest plateau of national parks. So I wanted you to be able to know that there was a difference. We decided that we were just going to go to the national parks until we met the national park units.
Big Cypress was a big turning point, and Fort DeSoto National Monument.
Oh, Fort DeSoto in
That really
Florida was
changed.
amazing.
It was-
Absolutely. So I don't know if any of you know, but you probably know what the first national park is.
Which is Yellowstone.
Okay, but did you know that Fort Mackinac or Mackinac Island was the second national park in our nation? Now, it was a part of our national park system for
Through a
20 years.
20 years, it was a battle.
And then they ran out of
military.
funding and they turned it back to the state of Michigan. And Michigan turned it into a
State park, and it's the first state park in the nation.
in the nation. So whenever you go to when you go up to Mackinac Island, that's our baby. Yeah, it's pretty special. I just wanted you to know that. All right, so when you go to a park, how do you keep track of the parks that you've gone to? Well, they have a passport stamp. Gerald, would you like to talk about the passport stamp?
So each park has them. They're completely free. You can buy these books that allows you to, go to each park and stamp your book to tell that you were there and to prove that you were there. And here's the cool thing about them. Every different area around America usually has a different color. Like out west, it's usually orange. To the east, it could be purple, south, light blue. They're just all different colors.
So you don't have to purchase a national park book to stamp your cancellations, but it's a good place to keep track of them. So a lot of times too, they'll have a map inside of all of the parks. So in those books.
An annual pass is a great investment. If
And
you're
saved
going,
us a lot of money.
they're $8 per year, and it'll let you into any national park. Just like going to Sleeping Bear Dunes is a good example.
It's $25 to get in.
To get in for 7 days.
Right.
This would let you in for free. So it doesn't take very many times to pay for itself as an annual pass.
Now, there's a lot of them that are free. Okay, you don't have to pay,
Exactly.
but those national parks usually
A lot
charge.
of your big ones charge.
Absolutely.
There are exceptions. There's handicap, there's military,
Yeah.
and then there's a senior one. And the senior one, you pay $80 for the rest of your life. You can get it at 62, and it's good for.
And
forever.
believe it or not, we're there
Yeah,
now.
we're
Yes.
using that now.
Yeah, we're kind of excited about it. So, but before we were buying America the Beautiful, $80 a year.
Yes.
Yeah, and if you volunteer at a park for 250 hours or more a year, you get another card free for the year.
Yeah.
So a great investment. Now, we began our journey January 2010. If you remember, the
America's Best Idea.
yeah, was September of 2009. So we were headed where?
Florida. Where would you go from Michigan to have warm weather? You head to Florida, and there was Biscayne, Dry Tortugas, and the Everglades.
We
Those
called
were-
it the trifecta.
Right. We
Yes.
were headed down to do those.
However, it did take us 3 times to get to the Dry Tortugas because it is an island. And, but that's another story.
Yeah, it's a whole nother story.
Absolutely. All right, so we actually broke 3 world records. We didn't set out to break out.
It was never an intention to,
Never.
it just was a cumulative.
Well, when
thing.
you get to the end, you got to do it. So we are the first family to ever go to all of the national park sites, all 400, and it was 20th time.
Yeah.
And the kids actually are the first to,
They're the youngest to ever go to all the national parks.
and then they are the
The
most
decorated
junior rangers. And if you look over our shoulder, these are their vests that's behind us.
Covered front and back.
Absolutely. So the junior ranger program, we had no idea about it. We were just going to the parks. And when we were heading south, we ended up stopping off at Big Cypress National Preserve, which is one of those units.
One of the units, and a volunteer there turned us on to the junior ranger programs.
In fact, she asked us if we knew about it, and we said we had no idea. And so she basically told us that each park has one. and that they're about that specific park and what makes them important. What was really important to us and what we really loved about it is that the Rangers made the park. They love their parks. Now, when you look at these two Rangers, the one that has Gerald as a beaver, that was on Isle Royal. That is Ranger Danny. That's when we really started falling in love with the Ranger tours. They give
programs and they give talks.
Totally.
Every park has one.
And then the one where that's Ranger Edison, by the way, he is blind and he's in a wheelchair. He's a twin and his brother takes him to and from work. Ranger Edison kind of sealed the deal. He told the kids that he was not handicapped, that his handicap was an inconvenience, at which point he took this little plaque, metal plaque out of his pocket that had a square piece out of it. And that's where he signed his name on their Junior Ranger book. They were so captivated by him and he inspired us. So this is the big, glorious, big 63 national parks that everyone's thinking about. Right there in the very center, of course, is Redwoods. Off to the, you can see there's like a little shelter there. That's where?
That's Isle Royal. You can go out and use one of those shelters. They're free to, you got to get a permit and then they're free to use.
Off to the left is Theodore Roosevelt. When they're all sitting there in a row, we were looking for bighorn sheep. We ended up seeing their back ends and we counted it, but later on we actually got to see some heads.
Yeah, got them up close.
Totally. And then down below was the kids had come across the skeleton of a moose on Isle Royal, and that's when we learned that you're supposed to report those things to the Rangers. This is more of the big national parks. You got Joshua Tree, and between the girls is Half Dome, which is Yosemite. That bear, believe it or not, when we jumped on our bush plane to head out, it actually waved goodbye. That was quite amazing.
Yeah, that was at Katmai.
And Capitol Reef is up on the other corner. Now, we did fall in love with the national park units. They're personal to each of us. There was a period where we had an interview with a journalist in Washington, D.C. And before we met with her, she asked us specifically what was our favorite parks. It's the number one question we get asked all the time. What is your favorite park? Well, if you have children or a lot of pets, it's very hard to pick between your children.
Some days better than others.
Absolutely. And when one child's being better than the other that day, that could be. We always say the park that we're at is our favorite, wouldn't you say?
Yep, or the one we're headed to.
However, this journalist actually had us write down our 10 or 12 meaningful parks, which really was an eye-opener for us because truthfully, you found in love with
more historical.
Right? And Gerald, which ones did you love?
I prefer the battlefields.
Yeah. And Jameson?
I'm an activist, so like
Totally.
Stonewall, women's rights, all of those.
And personally, I fell in love with the arts, which is the writers, Carl Sandburg, St. Gaudens, the sculptor, Weir Farm, which is impressional painting. So the parks, what we want to say, has something for everybody. Right there at the very bottom is Mauna Kea. That is the highest point in the world. And
well, it's the tallest mountain in the world.
Well, maybe in the United States. But however, we disputed that because half of the mountain is underwater. And the guy said to us, so if I'm 6 foot tall and I'm standing in water up to 3 feet, does that mean I'm only 3 feet tall? And I said, point taken. So when you go up there, it's pretty cold and there's not much air there.
Right.
All right, so the hands-on learning.
That's where the junior ranger programs come in effect. The kids, it's a lot different, than reading in a history book in a classroom. The kids are right there in the room where it happened, taking a quote from Hamilton.
Totally.
You're right there with where Daniel Boone walked. You're going on Selma and Montgomery. It's just the Tuskegee Airmen. You're in their spot where they were at.
And personally, the kids, we were using an atlatl. We didn't even know what an atlatl was. And that was at Russell K. They took us out and showed us how to use that. That basically is a grape shot that's in Gerald's hand. It was an actual grape shot that was picked up from a Lowe's parking lot on the battlefield.
Yeah.
So quite amazing. That one-on-one attention that you get. It's not just showing up at the park and you're doing it as a family. When you go in and show interest in the parks, I guarantee you that you're going to have rangers and volunteers coming out of the woodworks. They want you to know their story. They want you to understand the importance of their park. Off to the left, we have, and I hope it's your left, that is Scott Morris. He played a cane tuck. And he was explaining to the kids just exactly what a cane tuck was on the Natchez Trace. And the other side is Ranger Elizabeth. She actually took the kids out because in their book, they had to find a Civil War
Certain
grave
grave
site.
sites.
And they didn't know how to find it. So she took them out to show them how to use the grid system in those Civil War military grave sites.
Cemeteries.
Yep,
They're all
cemeteries.
set up in grids.
Yep, so it was beautiful. And all the famous people that you get to meet. Jameson fell in love with Abraham Lincoln and we had to break it to her. He's not around anymore. Saint Albert Gallatin. A lot of people don't even know who Albert Gallatin is, but that ranger made us fall in love with him.
Very instrumental in the Louisiana Purchase and the Treaty of the War of 1812. Was a treasurer for 3 presidents, I believe.
Yes, and he took over for Hamilton.
Right.
And anyways, the guy in the middle, that's George Rogers Clark, big brother to William Clark of the Lewis and Clark expedition. He really is instrumental during the Revolutionary War for preserving the Michigan Territory. I fell in love with him. Up in the right-hand corner.
That is Ranger Betty,
Oh,
the
boy.
oldest ranger in the parks. Ranger Betty is phenomenal.
She's at Rosie the Riveter, and
Rosie.
she's 99 years old and still talking.
Yes.
Yes. And then the ranger on the bottom is Ranger Shelton Johnson. He is from Detroit. He was in the America's Best Idea documentary.
And he's probably the most famous ranger.
Oh,
out
I
there.
was a little overcome by him, and he did put his arm around me, so it was
Yeah.
kind of special.
Spent a couple hours with us going
Yeah.
over things.
The living history. Gerald loves military parks, and he has been able to actually access World War II vets.
This is at Pearl Harbor with Gerald on the left there. This man here wasn't on a ship at the time. He was he was 17 when the bombing took place. He lived in Honolulu and he saw the Japanese planes come in and bomb and destroy. Of course, he joined right after that and fought through the war after that. It's just this hands-on stuff. I just can't emphasize it enough.
The one up there where the kids are all dressed up, that's Fort Frederica. And basically they had to put the hats on and become those people of that time period. And they had to calibrate the cannon shot from how far their cannons could reach.
To protect their little town.
It was fun. Just had a wonderful time. The teamwork. When we first started doing the Junior Ranger programs, they just handed the kids a book.
Right.
And what did we say about that?
That is, when you hand a kid with the Junior Ranger programs, we believe that if you hand a kid a book, you're handing them homework.
Absolutely.
But if you hand the book to the family and the whole family does it, you're creating a memory and everybody learns from
Oh, absolutely. So the teamwork and the cooperation that it takes, it's usually girls against guys when we do it, but needless to say, it's still fun and we cooperate. Our exchange kids, we actually took in 2 exchange kids. We got a call, believe it or not. We had a young man from Japan from Youth for Understanding, and they said that he loves American people and American national parks, and that he was hoping to actually visit a few national parks. And we said, you know, we're homeschoolers. I don't think we're right for you. And they said, oh, he is right for you. So they came to the house, took a peek around and said, you've got enough room for another one. So we took Hannah from Germany and we had such an amazing time. When Tyga came, he landed in August, right before the total solar eclipse. We picked him up from the airport and informed him that we would not be able to stay at the house, that we were headed to Nebraska. He said, would we be able to see the house? And I said, just see the house to leave your stuff because we're headed out.
And that was the beginning of his trips. In the right-hand corner is Hannah's family. they came over and joined us
And started going to the.
and went to the national parks with us
Yes.
for a couple weeks.
So with our exchange kids, we had them for just 11 months. They were able to see the total solar eclipse, 30 US states, 73 national park units. They gave 107 hours, volunteer hours, to the River Raisin National Battlefield Park, and they attended public school.
So it is possible to do a few things.
Absolutely. Now, of course, you can't just have two and not take more. So 2 years later, we decided to take two more exchange kids. We have Finn from Germany and we have Dama, and they were way on their way of breaking the
Hannah's and Tiger's record.
Yeah, they were. We had them for 5 months. They ended up going to
25 states and 52 national parks.
and they were getting into quite a lot of hours of volunteering as well and going to public school. However, COVID stopped all that. And they were forced to actually leave and return in March. It was very, very hard sending them back. We still stay in contact with them. The phone allows you to talk back and forth, and it's just amazing. So earning Junior Ranger badges. Do you want to talk about the Junior Ranger badges, Jameson?
Well, when you finish your booklet, your Junior Ranger booklet, you can go in and they will give you a badge. It could be either a patch or a badge, but sometimes it's more likely a badge. But they have two different badges. They have a wooden one and they have a plastic one. And the wooden ones, you can take the backs off and you can stamp it so you know what exact date you go to.
And the cancellation, the
Yeah.
cancellation stamp, yep. These behind us, we have the patches, if you can see up here. There's patches on the back of all of their vests. So not all of them give badges. Some of them do give patches. Those are kind of exciting too. Now, the feeling of accomplishment. You can see the exchange kids, they were on the ends. They had their own vest made, and how young our kids were at. We all learned in this.
It is a phenomenal program.
And every single badge is a memory
It is a memory.
and a
Exactly.
learning experience.
The things you take from it, the things you learn from it, our minds just expand.
Expanded, absolutely.
The history that I got in school is nothing like the history that you get in these national parks. They give you the whole story, not just one side of the story, the whole story.
And they
from
don't
every
candy
perspective.
coat it either. Some
No.
of them are a little hard to swallow. It's difficult to explain to your children, but they do a very good job.
One of the things with the national parks is they tell the whole story, whether it's good, bad. There are some horrific things that have happened in this country that they talk about, and they have them in national parks. And there's some incredible things that have happened too that are also part of the national parks.
Absolutely.
So you get the
Yes.
good and the bad.
Volunteering, we realized that if we were going to go to all the parks, that we needed to volunteer. And actually, at the time that we said that, there was no River Raisin National Battlefield
No.
Park. The closest park to us
That's
was,
Sleeping Bear Dunes.
and we expected to maybe give them 2 weeks, cleaning trails, whatever it is that they needed, and then be done for the year. Because volunteers were instrumental at helping us at the parks.
They're very
Involved.
Yeah,
Yes,
very detrimental to the parks.
not
Without-
detrimental, but
I mean,
important to
to
the
the
parks. Yeah,
They without the parks, without the volunteers, there would be no parks.
right. Well,
They
they
wouldn't
would
be
be
limited,
limited.
very
They'd be extremely. Now, this particular gentleman is the boss of the River Raisin National Battlefield Park. This is Superintendent Scott Bentley. And we went down just to basically introduce ourselves, and over 2,000 hours later,
Each,
yes,
over
each.
8,000.
That's right,
community.
right. We are still volunteering and learning a lot.
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah.
So this is Major Muskrat, and he's very important to the story of the River Raisin, and that's another story. However, the kids have actually grown up with Major being around him, as you can tell. And the kids, we've rode floats. We've been lit up with light bulbs. We've won. We won the Governor's
Very-
Award at the
Holland. Harlan Tulip Festival.
Absolutely. We've met interesting people. We've done living history, and I do believe that this has really contributed to my daughter doing
Cosplay.
cosplay. Absolutely, and it can be exhausting, but we've enjoyed that. the fur trading and games. We have schools actually bust in for field trips. We're talking thousands. And you want to tell them what you do?
I teach historical games and how they were played.
Yeah.
And then you also do guiding.
Yeah.
Yes, we guide people through different areas.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Another thing.
The kayaking programs. They had the River Raisin hopefully you'll get it back going after COVID is settled down. We had kayaking programs that we take people out kayaking over the
River Raisin,
down
Hulls
the River
Trace.
Raisin,
Yeah.
Hulls Trace,
Yeah, we're all ACA certified. We're all guides to be able to take everybody out there.
which means you can rescue and teach paddling.
Because I'm a horticulturist, they knew exactly who to call for planting the native plants. Right there where Jameson and I are at, those are genotypes from Michigan State, believe it or not. That was Phragmites that we're trying to remove from that area. And there's a particular reason why that area is so important. Just behind us is a particular road called Hulls Trace. This road, as you can see, was a corduroy road. It was discovered by a local college professor in Monroe who was looking at the old maps. And he said that he thought that there might be a section of that road still in existence. The scholars kind of looked at it and said, no, it would be under Dixie Highway and Jefferson Ave. However, when the water receded in the lower Huron, there was 450 feet of those logs sticking out of the bank. So we're trying to preserve it. We have taken people over that in the water kayaking. It's 209 years old. Now, Fort Necessity says that they have the oldest federally paid road, but we had to basically correct them on that one.
This Hulls Trace is the oldest federally paid road.
And it ran from Fort Detroit to Urbana, Ohio, about 222 miles. It was a military road. It was significant because that's what the British wanted to cut off so that the supplies could not,
Fort Detroit.
absolutely couldn't get through. So this road is extremely important in our story. Cleanup. We love to clean up.
Oh, we go in with a philosophy of leaving it better than what we.
It's our junior ranger pledge.
It is.
And we compete with one another, trying to pick up as much trash as we can possibly pick up. The one up in the corner has always been my favorite. Gerald found a toilet seat. I was so proud of that toilet seat. Now, when we were in Hawaii and they closed the parks down, there were still people accessing the parks. And so there were people that we ran into that were literally cleaning the bathrooms.
Helping take care of these parks.
Absolutely. So you heard a lot of things of people doing wrongdoing, but we actually saw a lot of people they loved their parks. They're their parks. We were actually moving bamboo out of the way so that people could access the parks access the trails without tripping. So this is basically how we do it. So when we're not flying into those areas that we can't get into, we are sitting in the truck. There are 2 GPSs on our dash. The big GPS is probably the most important one.
It is our most important because it has the height and the length of your vehicle in it and the width. And it will tell you that if you what roads you can go on and what roads you cannot access.
It tries to take us the long way around
There's a
though,
lot of
however.
times,
And
yeah.
so we have the small GPS just to argue with the big GPS.
Now we use Google.
And we really still recommend using a map.
Oh, we carry a map with us
Yeah,
all.
so the map that you see off to the right is the one that you would probably get in your passport book. That's where that came from. And that actually has all of the national park sites in it, all 423. This one is 2016. So the newer ones would have the newest
The
5
newer
parks.
parks in it.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. So how do we do it? We actually take a region and we figure out how much time we have, and then we start planning. We start figuring out how many days we need to be at the park, what days the parks are open.
What the distance is away from wherever we're going, how many hours it takes to get there.
And then we start packing. And as you can see, that Jaja, our cat, she knows we're headed back on the road again. Now, it's very important about the timing and the preparation. So that's our son-in-law that's on top of our 5th wheel, and he is checking and resurfacing.
Resurfacing, recaulking the roof for us.
To make sure it doesn't leak. And we are making sure that, in fact, that was in San Francisco, that was a meter that we thought maybe gumballs would come out of it.
It was very confusing.
It was.
So she thought that was a funny picture. to put in.
I was looking for gumballs actually, yeah, but we didn't get any out of it, but we did get to park.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of weather, and our philosophy for weather is
What is that philosophy, Jameson?
There's no bad weather, just bad clothes, and that's not rain, it's a waterfall.
That was a waterfall.
It
That
seemed
was
like a
Pinnacles.
water, but it was rain.
It was rain, and we really actually had a fabulous time.
The only problem with that day was the condors weren't out because of the rain.
Yeah,
We
they
did get-
would have pushed it right to the ground, but we had a great time. So don't let the weather stop you. Just be prepared and wear the right clothing. That, when we were in the truck, was up on the Dalton Highway past the Brooks Range. And we had picked up about 200 pounds of dirt.
It took me $44 worth of quarters to get most of the dirt off. I did not get it all off.
Yeah, we brought some mud home.
Yeah.
And as you can tell, I am wearing, this is August, and I am wearing my, my hoodie and everything on that. Mishaps. This is probably the most important thing that we can recommend, that you understand it's going to happen. How you react to a situation is how your children will respond. When we lost our transmission on the way home,
Luckily, it was almost home.
we were 6 hours from home. And when we lost it, the kids started to cry. And at this point, we looked at each other and I said, what we do right now will last them the rest of their lives. So while he called the 2 tow trucks to come pick up the 5th wheel and the truck, the kids and I were off picking dandelions and creating a memorial of dandelions next to the side of the road for our transmission. And we've been fine ever since.
There's all kinds of, yeah, we've had to change our routes because of snow, our itineraries.
Yes,
By having the itineraries, we were able to switch our
our
venue
plan, yeah,
and go a different route.
and go completely in
We've had
reverse.
Twice, we've had to change everything because of forest fires.
Yep.
We've had to change it in California because of snow.
We didn't have chains for our tires.
They won't let you in if you didn't have chains in
Right.
certain areas.
Okay, so the one in the middle, actually, we were in Nevada.
This was going to Great Basin in Nevada, and I don't know if you know what a dust devil is, but it's a miniature tornado. And it hit the side of that van, shook the camper, shook the whole thing, sucked the window right out of the camper.
And
Smashed
so
it.
we stopped off and grabbed the plywood that we had underneath something and stuck it in the window until we could get to the next town.
And we got to the next town in one of those little towns out in the middle of nowhere. The
Nowhere.
hardware store has everything.
Well, one of everything,
One.
and we needed one of everything. So we were able to actually
Stick
fix
a
that.
window back in and
Now-
keep going.
Our son on the very bottom, that's Taiga from Japan. The very first thing, we were less than 500 miles from home and we got a flat tire and he panicked. And our kids jumped out of the car, grabbed the jack, was ready to start changing the tire. And Taiga realized, wow, this isn't such a big deal after all. And he started using, whenever anything went wrong, he'd just simply say, plan B. Now,
Size with your campers, size makes a huge difference.
it makes a difference. This is why we knew we couldn't take our 5th wheel up to Alaska, and we took a truck camper and our cargo trailer. This vehicle, this bus had no business being up there, and they're lucky that they actually didn't roll over. It took them 3 days to actually get the equipment up there to be able to pull it back on the road. Because the thing you need to realize up in Alaska is that road is a trucker's road and they have the right of way. Even though we have the right to be on it, the truckers know they own it. And so as soon as that trucker was coming, I'm sure they just pulled over and then that soft gravel will suck you right off the side. So quite interesting. We went over 300,000 miles in our 8 years, and that's not flying. That's on tires.
That's just on wheels,
Yes.
camping and whatever.
Now, pets, do we recommend taking pets to the parks? Well, if you would have asked us at the beginning of our trail, our journey, we would tell you, oh, absolutely not. However, the good Lord really felt that we needed to readjust that decision and brought us a 6-week-old abandoned or tossed out of a car puppy on the Natchez Trace. Actually, we thought it was a woodchuck, but when Dad stood, it went under our fifth wheel, missed the tires, and it was a heartfelt, horrible moment at the time. We ended up taking it to a ranger, and all of them leaned back away from us because they said there's not one ranger that doesn't have a park puppy down here. And I said, so what are we supposed to do with this puppy? This is the first day of our 13-day trip. And he said, you got yourself a souvenir. So we were going to find a nice home for Natchez. And we did. When we got home after spending 13 days with her, we kept her. She's 10 years old.
And she's snoring
And
off
she's,
the,
I'd love to show you where she's at. She's on her back right now, and she's all white and aged, but still loves to go on trips. Okay, so we have now then taken our cats. That particular one is Poughkeepsie, named after the New York town. Yep. And then we had a guinea pig. I hate to say that Garnet has passed away, but Garnet was probably the most well-traveled guinea pig, I believe, in the United States. And there in the middle, that is a wild animal. Now, there's a rule when you go to the park. There are several rules, but one big rule is that you are to remain 25 feet away from wild animals or further. But what happens when you're sitting there in Hawaii, minding your own business, and a sea turtle, a wild sea turtle, crawls up on you and perches themselves? Go ahead, Jameson. What happens?
You scoot back and you go sit on the which is really sharp lava rocks,
And
which has its name because if you step on it, you just scream.
yes. And it took quite a while for that turtle to
decide.
swim on. Yes, so she was a little uncomfortable there. The unforgettable lessons that we've learned. We have actually raised flags over Fort Sumter. We've done it at Yosemite. We've met incredible rangers.
several parks, yeah.
We've taken all of the ranger tours that are available. We've gone into caves. That's us coming out of that. However, the parks are not just what we do visit. When we look out on the map to see what's around the parks, we see the world's largest, the world's smallest, and we are pie people. So we've decided we're going to
Wherever
go.
we're at, we search for pie.
We do. We get some weird looks. Now, when we're north, people are crescent rolls or they are sticky buns. Sticky buns. And we've enjoyed sticky buns, but we're still pie people. So Gerald, would you like to talk about Mammy's Cupboard?
Mammy's Cupboard is a pie place, basically, down south near Mississippi.
Natchez,
In Natchez, Mississippi.
Mhm.
And they have a thing there called Mile High Meringue Pie. And it's Mile High Meringue Pie. It's just a little piece of pie and a giant piece of meringue. They just slap on top of it. And it is excellent.
Excellent. And we would still have to, we've had great pie everywhere, but we are still putting these cupboards meringue pie the highest, correct?
And these are some of the things we're talking about. Biggest and largest. We take in all of that kind of stuff.
And it's important that if you get down into Arizona, that you stand on the corner of Winslow, Arizona, and sing the Eagle song with your kids. The thing at the very bottom is a European way of traveling. We saw it in Alaska. It's called a rotel.
That was actually in Denali, and we were quite
Surprise.
interesting.
Yeah. Every one of those windows is a bed.
Yes.
And you literally slide into it, so I'm
And
not
then
sure how we could handle it, but it's quite interesting, and it's a way of doing it.
Yeah.
But before you start looking elsewhere, if you haven't explored Michigan, Michigan has it all. When we were coming back from Alaska, and it was our 49th state, the kids took a deep breath when we entered the Upper Peninsula.
And we're driving along Lake Superior, up from Houghton on down around that area.
And said,
What did you guys say?
Wow.
there's
Michigan has it all.
Yes, yeah. And it's not because we live here. It really does have it all. The closest state that we came to was Washington State. Took a second because they have mountains that require chains on your tires, and we just didn't want to replace the brakes on our vehicles often. So Michigan is number one.
If you haven't done, there's 5 national parks in Michigan. Check those out first. There's some
Oh.
incredible parks.
Absolutely. And then not just the parks. I mean, Michigan has absolutely every type of entertainment and activity you could
Outdoor
possibly do.
activity you can have. Yep.
Oh, yes. This is us winter camping. I don't know if you can see that, but we didn't let any type of camping just slow us down. And that's the dunes, and we were sledding down the dunes. And Michigan has more lighthouses than
any state in the union.
absolutely. And that one is where they're standing in a lighthouse on Isle Royal.
Yep.
Yep. So we've been north, south, east, and west. We've been above the Arctic Circle. We've been below the equator. We've been to
As far east and as
far
far
west as you
can
can go. Absolutely. And we still love our Michigan.
And we love our country, love our,
We love
the
our country.
There
We
is
love it.
absolutely anything and everything that you want to see.
We've been to 8 countries too, and our country just is.
It has it all.
It does.
11.
Yeah.
Well, don't be smart.
Yeah, we have 8. She's 11. Okay. The parks are always evolving, and that's true. The River Raisin had a story when we first got there, but there are people that are volunteers that are doing major research and digging up new stories that are making the story evolve
And change.
and change. And so once to the parks is not enough. A big thing with COVID, it kept us from actually going to revisiting a lot of the parks we want to go back to. However, because they're closed or portions of them are closed. Sleeping Bear Dunes, they had so many people hiking, they literally closed it all back down again.
They had to shut parts of it down because there's just too many.
Right. So we really haven't been too many places with COVID. We did go to Washington, D.C. because it was all outside. We were in our fifth wheel and we saw monuments, but visitor centers are closed. Some of them are. The trails are closed. And so it really kind of limits you in the park itself. So we're basically just waiting for this COVID thing to blow over. We do know people that are going to the parks.
But they're doing it on a limited basis.
Absolutely. And like I said, you really can't do it in one time.
So one of the things that people don't realize is, as with these parks, you as citizens of the United States own over 83 million acres of land.
And that's the size of Florida and Georgia combined. And the largest is actually in Alaska. It's
St. Ellis, Wrangler, St.
St.
Ellis.
Ellis, yeah. And then the smallest is in
Philadelphia, Thaddeus Kasinkel's
Yes.
little dinky house.
But an amazing man. Oh, he's not even buried in the United States, but we still honor him. So
He has monuments all over the world.
oh, it's amazing. So there's 423 with actually 4 or 5 on the docket. They're still in antiquity, or they're still in acquisitions, yes, to be a part of the family. So it's never ending. So truthfully, we can't wait to get back on the road. The kids are in college now, and Gerald is dual enrolled, or Jameson's dual enrolled. Gerald started early college. So we are now limited in when we can access the parks. It was really one of the reasons why we decided to hurry up and finish the parks. We didn't want to give the world to the kids. We wanted to show the world to the kids, though we do think it might be cheaper to give them.
Yeah, it probably would have.
Yeah, but needless to say, the memories we've created, every single one of these badges behind us is a memory that when we look at it, it puts us there to the park. So we're on the road after COVID, and we are planning more adventures. There's many parks that we want to go back.
Oh,
Things that we missed that.
there's no way you can see them all.
You just can't. And like I said, it's changing. And I hope we've inspired you. It basically just takes a little planning and pulling out of your driveway. It's really all it takes. And hopefully we've inspired you. If the Maitlands can do it, anybody can do it. We're not rich.
One of the things that I want to emphasize too is, don't overlook the state parks in a lot of these.
Oh, absolutely.
In a lot of these other states.
Yes.
The BLMs, the Department of Interior Parks, those are all included in this collection.
Yeah, the Bureau of Land Management, BLMs, they all have junior ranger programs. They're parks that you own as well. Most of them are out west.
Right.
But don't overlook them. When they say national on them, check them out.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for inviting us into your homes, and we would love to answer any of your questions or hopefully get you on the road to creating your own memories.
We definitely have some questions. So I'm just going to start with the questions in the Zoom chat first. And Anne asks, this is for the kids, Jameson and Gerald. What was your favorite experience?
Oh, there's so many of them.
Yeah, there's just they're all different ways. It's kind of hard to pick out of them.
You love the military parks, though.
Yes.
I loved not getting bit by a rattlesnake. That was fun.
Yeah.
Or getting left behind.
Yes, I did leave my son, and I did save my daughter from a rattlesnake.
Or getting crushed.
And we did pull a thorn out of, it took 4 of us. We took Natchez to the,
Out in the desert.
out in the desert. She's not a desert dog. And we had to pull a thorn right out of her tongue because she had licked it from her paw. And that was a very good reason not to pierce your tongue, I told the kids, because it was pretty gross.
That's incredible. I'm sure you have countless stories. I can imagine it would be extremely hard to pick a favorite.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see what's next. Hello, beautiful Maitland family. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. Did you create any art, painting, drawing, etc. at the parks?
Oh, absolutely. There is art in my book. I have arts in the park. They are very instrumental at bringing the arts with brochures. And when we went to
They're talking about if we created art, if we painted.
We did.
We took photos.
Yes, we did
Too.
photos. And do you remember when they gave you a backpack that we were in Alaska and the kids went out and were actually drawing? So do
There's
you
a
remember
lot of
that?
those kind of
I
programs.
remember Weir Farm.
At the Weir Farm, they actually hand you an easel and send you out into the field. It's incredible. There is so much art in the parks. In fact, the River Raisin actually is having an art gala, and everyone's invited to participate. This year it's wildflowers and native wildflowers, and we were expecting to have that last fall, and it's moving. So go on to the River Raisin National Battlefield site and look up the art gala. They allow anybody. We've got our
Kids
art.
have got
Yeah,
project.
we each have a piece to put into the gala. So yes, I hope we helped you with that.
Awesome. Okay, a question about homeschooling. So a lot of families right now are working through homeschooling ideas for the first time. What advice do you have for families working to support their kids? What worked for you while you were on the road traveling?
Well, our curriculum was, we used Christian Light, and so it travels with us. It's a booklet. It has 10 books to it, and we just basically went through it. So no matter where we were at, we could take the books with us.
Right.
However, the history that we provided for the kids,
We didn't bother with history
Not
and
at all.
geography because that was part of what they were learning.
these Junior Ranger books provide so much. You can literally go on to the Junior Ranger, or you can go onto the park sites and look up Junior Rangers, and you can literally, a lot of them, you can do them online.
Right.
And learn geography. If you call the park and tell them that you're very interested, that you're studying, we spent 3 years working on civil rights, Civil War, and slavery. And they gave us so many materials to actually work with. We used it for 3 years.
But then we also started going to a homeschool co-op
Yes.
too.
Right.
So we still had to go to the co-op.
When we got older, we did. Yes, we were going to the co-ops. However, there was breaks. So we would work really, really hard. We would go to the homeschool co-ops, but they would take breaks in between, and we would run in all of those particular times. But like I said, now that they're in college, we're like the rest of the world. However, we did have the exchange kids that were in public school, and we still managed to
Get them through.
And we did. We took as many days off as we were allotted to take. And the teachers were very excited that we were doing that for them.
Yeah.
And they got all A's. They were on the honor roll.
I was gonna say, it's almost like, couldn't you just get extra credit for all of the on-the-job experience that you're getting as a student?
Yeah.
Okay, a couple more questions. Well, one comment that I wanted to mention that's in the chat for Zoom. My husband Kevin and I have been following along with you all for years and want to thank you for being our inspiration to get us out into our national treasures. It has changed our lives. And that's from Garrett. And that is an extremely nice thing to say.
Yes. And he inspires us to keep sharing our stories, because really it started out to be just about us. When Ken Burns and Dayton Duncan were familiar with us, they sent us a poster that it said, "To the Maitlands who are going to them all." I know how everyone's excited about movie stars, but when Dayton Duncan sent us an email, Jameson came out of the basement screaming, "Dayton Duncan, Dayton Duncan." You would have thought that Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker was coming for supper. So that was inspirational for us to be able to want other families to do this, because families that play together stay together. That's why we like doing the Junior Ranger programs together.
As a family.
We do. Thank you, Garrett.
Okay, a question from Facebook. Once COVID gets a little better, what's first on your revisiting list?
Oh, we definitely need to go over to Medgar's, and we want to go back down to Birmingham and the Freedom Riders. We have a ranger cat that was here at the River Raisin, and she's got full-time work there. We would like to give her some volunteer hours wherever our favorite rangers are. We love to go cut back poison ivy. It was poison wood. Anything that they need, because they just don't have enough rangers to help them. So
there's a couple of new parks, St. Genevieve, that
yes,
we want to see.
Missouri.
We want to go back to the Arch, the expansion. It is now a national park.
We want to go to White Sands.
Yeah.
I know, but White Sands is now a national park instead of now our Indiana Dunes. It was a lake shore, but now it's a national park. When they get that national park recognition, it brings so many more people to the area. But please don't miss the units, because they're the ones that fill our heart full of wonder.
The units tell you the story of the United States.
Yes.
Like I said before, the good
and the bad.
The things that we've done wrong, and the things that we've done right.
Absolutely.
They're incredible.
Yes.
But that's real history, and it's so important to know both sides. Absolutely. I appreciate you saying that. Let's see. Another question from, actually this one's from Lucy. So did you encounter unexpected obstacles when camping with young children, and how did you overcome them?
Oh, well, I left Gerald. They were going back. I told them we were getting ready to leave. We were off the Natchez Trace, and we were in a state park camping. We were ready to head up into the mountain, and it's twisting and turning. And I told the kids to go to the bathroom and then get in the truck. And as we were leaving, I called my husband Mr. Man. He said to me, "Would you watch the back corner to make sure that the truck and the camper don't hit?" Because it was such a sharp turn. And when I looked behind us, my son was missing. My son, who sits next to his sister, his beloved sister. And I said, "Where's Gerald?" And she said, "Oh, he's in the bathroom." At which point I began to scream profusely. And then, who are you going to call when you've left your son behind, when you're sitting with your family? I called my mother back home in Michigan. However, my dad answered the phone and he asked me what was wrong. I said, "Dad, I really need to speak with Mom." And he said, "You've got to tell me what's wrong." And I said, "We left Gerald. We left Gerald at the campground." And he said, "Go get him." And he hung up on me. At which point I then tried to call my mother on her cell phone, at which it was busy because my dad was busy calling my mother, telling her what I had done. However, at this point,
it turned out okay.
We got back down to the campground, and a lady said that her husband had taken our son up to the ranger station. I asked my son, just exactly, "Why did you go to the ranger station? You should have sat down where you were at." And he said, "Because the Junior Ranger book says, when you are lost,
go find a ranger and then see if he can contact your parents."
So what can you say to that?
But there's been a lot of other, the flat tires, all that kind of stuff.
We did have a mountain almost flat in our vehicle
We almost got knocked
with us in it.
with us in it. We
Yeah.
were in a landslide.
Yes.
But it's,
Honestly, that teaches the resiliency too at the
It
same
does.
time. I mean,
when-
I think that's amazing that so many kids don't have the wherewithal to do
But
what Gerald did.
It's in
So
everyday life.
they learn to change
You
a
know-
tire very young.
And
Yeah.
COVID has taught resilience, and it's taught. So how you react to an event really will demonstrate for them how that they will respond. So it's a good thing the kids were, that Gerald wasn't in the car when we had lost him, because I had lost.
that is a wonderful story though. Okay, I think we have time for one more question. This one is from Sarah, and she said, quick top 5 must-haves when you go on your adventures. Is this like if you could only bring 5 things, or your top? But I would say it's top 5, not only 5.
For the fifth wheel.
Well, camper, some sort
Yes.
of camping.
A
vehicle.
map.
Yes.
Maps. GPS.
GPS. Your itinerary, you must plan. So you just don't leave the house without really thinking it through. A lot of times, the parks have weird hours now because of rangers not having the
Limiting.
funding. Absolutely. So they might be closed on a Monday, Tuesday. So we have parks because of COVID that are really only open.
Do your research before you.
Absolutely research that. If that's the one thing that you take along, you take an itinerary, because you can switch it around. You can move itineraries around. It won't be the way you plan it. That's the one thing you need to realize, but put an itinerary together. The cheapest way to do it is to camp. We love camping right at the parks.
Right.
It's so much less expensive.
And of course, the rest of it is pretty typical. You make sure you have good shoes, good clothes,
Right,
right,
because there's no bad weather, just bad clothes. Yeah.
the normal
Layers.
hiking stuff. and things like
Layers,
that.
lots of layers. And we wear a lot of the same clothes over and over.
Right.
Yeah. Gerald was really good at washing socks and underwear in a pail in Alaska. I would time him for 5 minutes, and then we would rinse them and then hang them up.
All right. Thank you, Maitland, so much for joining us today. Oh my gosh, this has
We're
been
thrilled to have been here, and hopefully we've inspired you to leave your house and check
Get on
out
the
your
road.
parks.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Make some memories.
You definitely have inspired me to get out and explore my locals and see what else I've got.
Thanks.
All right. Have a wonderful day, everyone. We'll see you next time.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.